Hello, everyone, and thank you guys for having me at your meetup. And thank you, Ferdinand, for an awesome music introduction. So it was great. I haven't seen anyone playing music on meetups, on technical meetups, so it's awesome. So yeah, hello, everyone. This talk is about progressive state management with NGXS, but before we get started, let me introduce myself. My name is Aliaksei Kuncevič. I am an Angular expert, mentor, and independent consultant, helping dev teams to adopt Angular in the most efficient way by applying solid architectures and best practices. I am organizing Angular Minsk, Angular Sydney, and front-end tech meetups. Also, I'm running an online and offline Angular workshops and teaching Angular at kuncevič.dev. As I'm a creator of frontend-related.com, which is an online resource where you can learn more about modern front-end frameworks. Also, I'm a part of NGXS core team. The NGXS core team is a global team of world-class professionals. In total, NGXS core team has close to 100 years of software industry experience. So today we'll talk about progressive state management. As a part of this talk, I will cover common problems with single-page applications and how to solve them. I won't focus on all the problems, just on a few specific ones, the ones related to the talk. Then I will introduce the reactive services approach and will show you how to implement reactive services in your applications. And then I will talk about state management in general and how to take your app from reactive services to the next level using NGXS. So what is a progressive state management you might wonder? Progressive state management is a development technique when you're progressively enhancing the functionality of the application state in a way it won't affect the existing data flow and existing structure of your application. Basically, the idea here is to keep things simple at first place and not to introduce any additional layers of complexity. So initially, you won't start with the reactive services and just use that approach until you find a need to bring a fully featured state management solution or anything like that. You can go this path if you are developing small to medium-sized apps, but it also depends on your exact use case. Also, this approach might be very useful for those who are new to Angular and who are new to state management concepts. So what is the most common challenge we are facing developing single-page applications using modern front-end frameworks like Angular? It is component communication, or basically the data flow, which is always the complex part. In many cases, when component initiating a change, everything would rely on the change need to be updated accordingly. We as developers want to solve that problem as efficient as possible. Normally, our apps has a nested component structure like that, or similar to that. Components within the structure interacting with each other. This way, the data the data changes and flows around. So yeah, the component communication can be really crazy. Here is a very simple example of filtering. Based on the search term on the filter component, the result component updated accordingly with the new data. This example from Angular.io website. Sometimes we can solve that problem just by using input and output mechanism every Angular developer familiar with. But in case of these deep nested components, which you probably have to avoid as much as you can, it might not be the best approach. In complex cases, using input and output, we may introduce a bit of boilerplate that we had to maintain going forward. But we want to keep things simple and maintainable. So there is another solution for that. Let's use reactive services. Using the reactive services approach, we can solve the component communication and data flow in our apps in a quite elegant, in a simple way. What is reactive service? Reactive service is just a wrapper on top of RxJS behavior subject. I will show you all the details on that in an upcoming demo. With behavior subject, we can create an observable, set its default value, set a new value, get the current value, and so on. So let's see the demo. This is basically the demo application I will be walking you through, guys, today. It's a very simple application, just with a couple of components, parent child and little child component, where I can increase or decrease the number. And in the container component, as you can see, I'm displaying the summary. So it's a very simple application. So let's see how it's implemented using reactive services approach. So here is a basic example of a reactive service with a behavior subject in it, with a couple of functions, set value 1, set value 2, set value 3, and a summary function. So it's very simple. And some of you probably seen similar code in some applications, but how we can get this code better? Here is another approach of using a Rex service library. So here, what I do, I'm using this Rex service theme from a Rex service NPM package, and my code becomes a little bit different. So as you can see, there is no behavior subject here. It's all abstracted within a Rex service. And I'm just extending this class in my service. And so I have the same number of functions, as you can see, set value 1, set value 2, set value 3, but the code also looks now a little bit simpler and easier to read. So that's the problem which is solved by a Rex service. So how we consuming this counter service in our application? Let's take a look at the parent component. So here, so what I do is just injecting my counter service within a constructor, and then what I can do, I can call the methods, like in this particular case, set value 1. And what I can do as well, I can watch for changes. So I'm referring to state $, and I'm looking for just value 1. So this is a parent component. It's just responsible for value 1. So let's see how template is looks like. So that's how template is looks like. I am calling update value, which increases or decreases the number. And also I'm subscribing to value $, observable using async pipe. And within my container component, so it's pretty much similar. So what I do, I am injecting my counter service, and then I just call in some method, which get in the summary, and then what I can do is in this component, and also can reset the state, and the template looks like that. So here I can click on reset the state, and also I'm subscribing for some $, using async pipe. So that's how the implementation looks like using reactive services. Just a quick summary, if you don't want to deal with behavior subject directly, you can just use a Rex service library. Rex library wraps behavior subject for you, so you just operate with simple API like set value, get value, and so on. If you want to learn more on that library, you can follow this link. Let's talk about state management now and how it could be helpful to simplify component communication and data flow. What's your, actually, I wonder, what's your favorite state management solution, guys? Comment in the chat and let us know. Here's the top 4 state management solutions for Angular: NGXS, NGRX, Akita, and MapX. I think you probably already heard most of those names or used them in your applications. So what are the benefits of state management? Using state management, we can simplify the component communication and implement predictable data flow in our applications. It makes it easier to test and debug applications. You can apply some consistent practice. You can, by using state management, you can apply same consistent practice across the teams within your organization. So now let's talk about NGXS specifically. NGXS actually, in my opinion, is a fully qualified as a progressive state management for your Angular applications, and you will see why later on. So what are the features of NGXS? NGXS is very simple to learn. It has a minimum boilerplate. NGXS is all about Angular thinking or Angular way of doing things. It has dependency injection and decorators as a first citizens. You can even use promise-based async operations for some edge cases if you need. Also, NGXS backed by a great community that you can reach out on a Slack if you have any questions or want to discuss anything or just to say hi. NGXS provides you with a global immutable data store. Components can dispatch actions to mutate the data. You can handle the actions once they dispatch. You can select pieces of the store data using selectors. Selected expose the data in the form of observables. As you can see, NGXS gives you a predictable cycle, and it might be very beneficial to use NGXS in the complex apps with a crazy data flow. So at some point, you might realize you had enough reactive services in your application, and you might want to move away from it to a proper, fully featured state management solution. So let's see how to convert reactive services to NGXS. So again, I'm referring to the same application. The second part is just different implementation, but it has the same view layer. So HTML structure doesn't change. And so from client side perspective, it looks as well exactly identical. The same number of components and same container, which displays the summary. So let's take a look how it looks like using NGXS data. Oh, sorry, NGXS store. Here, the state folder. So within this state this folder, you can see a number of files. So basically 3 files. So let's take a look at the container.state. So it's basically how we implement in the state. So yeah, it has an interface which represents the shape of our state. You can set initial value, and then we have a number of actions. Actually, actions it's just a function decorated with an action decorator. So we have update value 1, update value 2, update value 3, and reset counter here. So it's very similar to reactive services implementation. Like also like we're relying on the functions. So we have to implement a number of functions. And also you might ask, hey, but where is the summary? How are we summarizing? So we're summarizing stuff here in using selectors. So here I have a number of selectors in my counter.curious.ts file. And so I have a summary function, which actually summarizes my values. And also I have a number of other selectors, which just basically referring to a particular value, particular state, right? So this one is returning value 1, this one returning value 2, and this one returning value 3. And actions in NGXS are represented by classes. That's my actions.ts file with a number of actions. So let's see how we consuming all that in the components. So let's take a look at the parent component. So I'm injecting store class within the component. So, and here what I do, I'm dispatching the update value 1 action, which triggering update value 1 function when it's dispatched. And also here, how we using selectors. So I'm saying, okay, like give me value 1 here, and it returned as an observable value. And in my HTML template, nothing changes. It looks exactly identical as in a previous example, in the Reactive Services example. So same exactly shape, structure of HTML here. And so I'm updating the value by passing -1 or 1, which will decrease or increase the value. And also I'm subscribing for the value $sign using async5. And within my container component, so I'm basically using selector, which returns the summary, and I can call reset counter to reset the counter. And HTML looks exactly identical as in previous example using Reactive Services. So it has basically the same shape and structure. So nothing changed here. So basically what I've done, I just replaced the services with a state folder or a number of files within this folder. State file, selectors file, and actions file. So now let's talk about NGXS plugins. NGXS has such a thing called plugins, and it's where the progressive parts comes, the progressive part of NGXS. The plugin system allows you to tap into the state changes lifecycle, so you're able to extend the core functionality using plugins. Here's a list of plugins built by community that is currently available as a separate NPM packages. You can just simply NPM install any plugin, like basically as a normally installing NPM packages, and just get the benefit of it right away. If you want to learn more about NGXS plugins, check out this URL, and I show you some plugins in action soon. So there is such a thing called NGXS Labs. It's a separate org on GitHub that exists to test out and to prototype new ideas and proof of concepts. It is something that potentially may become a part of NGXS core functionality or an efficient plugin, or a part of efficient plugin. So there is lots of things available right now at NGXS Labs as that you can play around. Some of the labs plugins actually production ready. If you want to learn more about NGXS Labs, check out this URL. And now, as a last thing, I want to show you NGXS Data plugin, which is part of NGXS Labs. NGXS Data is a persistence API based on a repository pattern. It has a lot of great stuff in it. And probably the main benefit of using NGXS Data is that you write even less boilerplate. How about that? So, and now let's see how NGXS Data looks like in action. Again, I will be referring the same application, like same number of components, basically same function, same thing on the client-side perspective. But let's see how it looks, how the implementation looks like. So let's take a look at the state folder, and boom, it's just one file here. Okay, so that's basically what we got. It's a state implemented with NGXS Data plugin. So we have a number of functions here: update value 1, update value 2, update value 3. Very similar, very similar from a previous example using just a plain NGXS. And in addition to that, we have this computed this function marked as a computed function, which basically calculating the summary. So we're not writing any actions and we're not writing any selectors here. So let's see how we consuming that. That's our parent component, and as you can see, there is not much code here. So what we do, just injecting the service, the state within the component. Okay, let's take a look at a template. Is there any difference here? I mean, the shape is pretty much the same, but we now using update value 1 and update value, and value 1 a little bit differently. Now we actually referring to counter. So counter is basically an instance of our state here as the name counter, and we just referring it counter dot. So that's slightly different, but nothing else. Everything else stays the same. So we didn't change any structure of template. And let's take a look on a container component. So it's also not much code here. We just injecting the service, and then we just consuming the service this way. So yeah, it's really less boilerplate using NGXS Data. It might work for some cases, might don't work for other cases, but yeah, can try it out and see if it works for you or for your particular solution you're working on. So if you want to learn more about NGXS data, check out this URL. And now I just want to summarize. I spoke about how to approach data flow in Angular applications using the reactive services. And then I showed you how to convert your reactive services to NGXS. And then I touched on the NGXS plugins and NGXS labs. And we played around with NGXS data plugin. So I think I have another demo. We have some time left. So I want to show you how actually plugins works, how NGXS plugins works. So let's take a look at a app module. So I have a couple of plugins installed in this particular application. So I want to show you the logger plugin and the Redux Devtools plugin. So as you can see, just normal NPM modules. I enabling them only for development, so they disable for production because it's a kind of developer experience plugins, these two. So there is no need to make them available for production. I mean, unless you want to debug something in production, maybe you want to make such a version, deploy such a version to production if you want to debug something, but normally you're not doing it. So if I change in something here, let's open the console, and as you can see, the logger plugin will log in everything in the console. So it's a nice feature to have when you want to debug anything. So you can see the state and you can see what's action trigger, what the particular change. But if it's not enough for you, so we got this nice Redux Devtools plugin. For some of you who don't know what's Redux Devtools, it's just an extension for Chrome or for Chromium browser, for Chromium browsers, I'd say. So it gives you this nice box, so which you can use to debug your application. You can play you can travel through time, like you can play your changes right away here by clicking this button. You can debug your state by basically using this state, these buttons up here, or you can actually, yeah, basically there is lots of features. I don't even familiar with all of those features, but yeah, some of you might find this useful. So when you debug in your application, so take a look, might be good for you. So yeah, try all those, what I was trying to present to you today is the Reactive Services and the NGXS library. And I hope you find it useful in your applications and it make you happier Angular developers. So thank you for listening. Follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Dev2 if you want to hear more stuff like that. And if you want to keep learning more Angular, you might subscribe to my mailing list at kuncevič.dev/daily. And here are some other links you might find useful if you want to learn more about NGXS and everything I was talking to you today. So I will make the code demo and the presentation available for you guys, so you can take a look after the event. Thank you very much.